Hi guys, welcome back to the second part of making a video of Stand the Man. For the if you missed the first part, I should provide the link below, and for this second video, we will be covering the VRay material for skin, shader, lighting, rendering, VRay render settings. It's quite a lot to cover, so I hope you sit back and enjoy. So first, let's just open up 3D Studio Max real quick, and I want to just do a brief overview, of what I have in my 3D Studio in my Max file for the stand image. If I open up real quick, this is the actual final file that I render with. The warm version, and I split them into two. This is the warm version. So just give it a minute to load. Okay. Right. And then it's loaded. Just very quickly, this is a very simple scene. Just show you guys what I have. So we have just the character standing in front of a background and a bunch of lights and cameras. Very simple. We'll hide these for now. Also, these are the Ornatrix hair. We'll cover that in the third part of the video, so we'll just hide this for now. Next, we have a bunch of there are 4 layers here, as you can see, which I name it with a prefix mid for middle, and these layers are actually are non-renderable objects. So if I hit the object properties, it's non-renderable. It's just to show in my viewport, because if I exit the isolation, if I hide these guys, as you can see, I'm using a VRay proxy, for some of the ZBrush models that has lots of polygons. So I didn't use displacement map or any of that. I exported the whole geometry out from ZBrush. Like, I think the whole head. So see how it's kind of hard to see. That's why I had the middle resolution polygons to show me in viewport, but that's how it looks if it's a VRay proxy. And I think the head up to this sort of like a bust, it's probably 12 million something. So I just in order to save some render memory, I converted it to VRay proxy. And if you guys don't know how to do it. I think it's pretty simple. I think there's a lot of information. Actually, so simple. You just right click and just hit mass export, save it to like a somewhere of your working folder, then just hit this automatic, hit OK. That's it. It's that simple, and it'll help both in viewport and also in memory when rendering. So I have a couple. I have 5 things that are proxy, and then these are just regular max geometry. So those are all in this layer. Anyways, that's all there is to the objects. And let's just close this. Today there's quite a few things that I want to cover. First of all, in a couple forums like CG Talk and CG Feedback, I posted my material on this RAR file, and also a lighting screenshot, which we'll cover later in this video. So we'll just focus on the material first, I guess. So let me just open up this RAR file. This is the exact file that I posted on the forum. So we'll cover this exact same thing. And you know, I should have written like a document with it to explain my thought process, but as I mentioned in my first video, it's kind of hard to write down what I had in mind. So we'll do that in this video. So if I extract this out real quick, just move it over here, and close them. Double click, doesn't seem to be working, so weird. So we have another you know, archive max. We don't need this, and another screenshot of the shader and how I the shader setup and some brief explanation, which I'll go through more in depth. But let's just for now leave this aside, and we'll open up another 3D Studio Max, and we'll we'll kind of like go through this as the basic shader, and later talk about and hand in hand what I used in the final render piece. So let's just open this thing up, and if you open the file, you're gonna notice I have a box, and that's it, one box. And you notice the box height is somewhere around 25 centimeters. This you know, I forgot to mention it in this file, that this is kind of like a unit of proportion, you know, because everybody knows the fast SSS shader depends on the scale, the scatter radius, right? So what I mean by that is, if I just real quick merge my head model, see, double click doesn't seem to work, so weird. But anyways, let's just merge my mid head, the one that doesn't render, real quick, and you're gonna notice here that this box represents kind of like the head height, width. So I should have mentioned this to you guys. So this box isn't there for no reason. Also, let me just get rid of that selection brackets. Okay, so you don't need this. So it's there for a reason. Just try to get your head size somewhere around this size, and the scale radius we can just leave it to 1. Otherwise you'll have to play around with this. I prefer to do like a real world dimension and that's around size of like an adult head. Anyways, moving on, if you open up the material editor, we have a single file, which is the blended VRay FastSSS2 with basic VrayMtl. And first of all, I have to give credits to Adam Lewis for posting this material, posting this how to blend a regular VRay material to a fast SSS. This was posted in CG feedback, but somebody asked me in the forum, and I couldn't find the actual link anymore. I tried doing a search in CG feedback, but I still couldn't find it. But luckily I saved the JPEG. So this is done by Adam Lewis. This is the base that I use for layering the blend into the SSS. But we'll minimize that for now and go back to here. So if we look at the screenshot, the shader setup here, I mentioned, I wrote here that it starts here, and then the simplest way is to first discuss, I guess, the SSS itself, the SSS material itself. So let's just sorry for the single monitor screen space. I know it's limiting, but okay, so the first part is to just let's just focus on the SSS material. And here I wrote down no specular. So the idea is on this layer we don't put any specular amount, no reflection here. Everything will be blended on, everything that's reflective or specular. Well, specular is actually a reflection, right? So everything that is reflection or specular will be put in this material, sort of like a sweat layer on top of skin. So I'd like to think like, for example, if a dead body will have an SSS but probably little to no reflection. I have a screen writing, so little to no reflection but still has subsurface. Well, sort of like that. artistically, not technically. But anyways, so the first part, like I said, we'll discuss on the SSS part. So definitely no specular going on there, which also true to what Adam Lewis setup is. So there you go. If this is 0, doesn't matter what these are, these numbers are, and if you still check this, it doesn't matter because everything's 0. So I made, excuse me, to make it clearer, just put everything to 0 and 1, just check it off. Alright, so the next part, we'll skip this part for a second. Or let's just go through every parameters, just a brief, I guess. I'll try to explain what I understand, and also from reading the manual later. We'll open it if needed. But anyways, let's just go through real quick each parameters and see what I understand from it. The first part, these presets, actually, if we change these, let me just do open up a fresh SSS Material so I don't screw mine. If we change these presets, and you'll notice the color, the subsurface color, scatter color, diffuse color, phase function, color changes, diffuse amount changes there as well, but that's about it. And so just for simplicity's sake, I'll just use something like a skin pink, or up to you if you want to use the other two, but we'll change the color anyway. So and prepass ID, to be honest, I don't use this one. The prepass rate, sorry, skip this one. This one's very important. So the prepass rate is sort of like in VRay, if everything in VRay that says rate and then has like 0, -1, -2, -3, and so forth, or 1, actually 0 refers to your render size, so your render resolution. So if your render resolution is, say for example, for simplicity's sake, is 1000 by 1000, then if your rate, whatever rate, be it GI rate or this prepass rate, is also 0, that means you're creating, you're rendering the in here the scatter map, the prepass at the full resolution. So if you go -1, it's half this resolution, and -2 is a quarter this resolution, and if it's -3, then it's 1/8, and vice versa. If you go 1, you're rendering double. So this is actually pretty important. I find the default value is, I think, -1 is pretty low. I go with 0, but be careful, because for example, I was rendering my final render for at this resolution, and this takes a lot of memory. let me show you. If under here, if you go to autosave and you know put an point it to a directory in your hard drive, you can see here that I have a VRSSS map. This is the scatter calculation map that VRay created at 0 rate, which is 5000 by 5000 for my final resolution. It creates a 500 megabyte file, so it's huge, right? 500 megabytes per file, so it actually takes up a lot of memory. I don't know how to count it precisely, but it does show a lot that it takes memory. When I hit the render button, I'll show you later. For example, let's just do it now if it's visible. It's here. It shows here the memory used is quite a lot. I was actually having a little bit of a memory issue. Anyways, okay. So sorry if I'm explaining this a little sporadic. That's why writing it down is a bit hard, because some settings are interrelated to others, and so it's just pretty hard to write it down. But anyways, keep going. So prepass ID, I would suggest to just go 0. Sorry, prepass rate. Prepass ID, I don't use this, so just skip it. Scale, if you're real world size like me, just leave it to 1, and then play with this radius, scatter radius later. IOR, I googled the IOR of skin. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's around 134, which is the default. 134 actually, the default is 13. It doesn't have to 004. It doesn't matter that much. But if this IOR actually is a, if I just open up the default, the stock fast SSS shader, and if you notice, this IOR is actually like a reflection multiplier. I would like to think of it that way. So if you notice, your specular amount is only this much, right? And if I crank it up probably higher to something like that, it doesn't show that reflection in the but it does actually. Anyways, it's only show this much, and you can't go lower than sorry, you can't go higher than 1, because it'll become like a non-physical, right? Because it's not energy conserving, non-physical. That's what I mean. So maximum is 1. So the IOR here, so if I crank it up to 2, and well, probably we have to do a test render, but let me see if I put it back to 1.3 and see if there's any. Oh, there you go. There. So sorry, let's just scratch that, and I'll restate that. Say for example, this is the base values, and if I crank the IOR to like 2, and notice how this is almost like much brighter, the reflection. So it's kind of like a specular or reflection intensifier. But setting this too high, I found making the reflection look extremely weird, extremely fake. So I'll just stick with normal values. Okay, so moving on, the overall color, this thing, I would just leave it to white, but if you want to change the color, it's actually, it has, I forgot, but I read somewhere, but it has a like a multiplication effect. So if I create it, see how if I have it on a somewhat medium tone gray, and it darkens the I can't double click. Sorry, I can't double click, but let me just show this bigger. Okay, so I just changed the overall color to a darker tone, and it has that multiplication effect, kind of like a multiply on a layer mode in Photoshop. So if it's white, obviously there's no multiplication effect. So as you go darker, it'll make your color darker and more saturated. So normally I would just leave it to white. There is use for this, I'm sure, but I just don't use it. Okay, so diffuse color and diffuse amount go together, right? So if you are fully diffuse, then you're ignoring your scatter, color, and radius and whatever. So it's almost like 100% diffuse, and then there's no scattering going on. And then if you go half-half, of course, kind of like a half diffuse, and then the scatter is added on top. So typically some people like to put some amount of diffuse. If you really need to put some, I would suggest a very tiny amount. For example, let's just go to the default. If you really need to put it, I would really suggest like a very low amount, like 10 or something. But I read somewhere, can't remember where, but the skin is almost fully subsurface color anyway, so I don't put my diffuse amount at all. Okay, so continuing, subsurface color, this should be like if you're doing a Caucasian color, I guess, but okay, I have something here that is pretty interesting. I think it's this one. It's a paper. Let me see if I got the correct one. Oh, sorry, not this one. But in the paper, there was a I have to locate it. Sorry about this. It's a little sporadic, I know, but let's see. Nope, not this one. It's a preview, not the hair one. One second, please. Yes, I'm trying to find. Probably this one. Oh, there you go. It's this one. So there's a paper, but you know, I'm not gonna even pretend I understand any of these. You know, if these are like, you know, formula for God knows what, but if I can figure these out, I guess I would study like you know, I would go into physics or math, not as a computer graphics artist, but um, just I just read this for, you know, for fun, I guess. Skipping all the crazy equations and just uh, and just looking for pretty pictures. But my point is, when I was talking about color here, they sort of like photograph a piece of skin, and then you know, what I did is I just sampled this color, and then, you know, put it as a base color. And of course I have to do, you know, render tweaks. But my point is, I think I wanted to also show you guys that these papers have information in there, even though they look scary, but it's worth checking out. By the way, all those papers you can, you know, find, for example, just for example, see, I can't double click, so weird. Just for example, the VRay subsurface SSS material, SSS2 material, is based on paper by this person Hansen. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. Called a practical model for yada yada yada. So it's actually this paper here. So a lot of you know, there you go, this one. A lot of not just VRay skin, I think Arnold's skin shader also based on this person's paper. And you know, you can download, you can Google for these papers and have a look and see if they have you know, interesting stuffs. I do learn one or two from it. Obviously skip all the equations, huh? But say for example, I will show you, I will explain later also what to look for in a skin shader, sort of like the scatter, you know, because I think well, one of these are first, one of the things to look for is definitely the infamous red ear. But not just that, I will explain in a bit. But moving on, scatter color is just a darker, more saturated version of your skin. I notice in my test renders, if you bump up the value too much, I think it'll make the sort of like more a brighter, more glowy. So if that's to your what you want, definitely go that way. But scatter radius is it's not, this number is not fixed in stone. What you want in this number, what you look for is actually is in one of the papers. If I can show you guys real quick, not this one. Okay, so there it is. It's this one. So to me, a good scatter radius is when you have your shadow bleeding color from the skin, like this reddish thing here, but still retain shadowed area. That's what I'm trying to say. For example, a lot of renderings, they look like balloon, gas balloon, because you're losing that shadowed area. And like, for example, this one, for my taste is a little too less, so I would go further than this, but not to the point where it looks like a balloon. If you understand what I'm trying to say, I think you do. That's one thing to look for in a skin shader, and obviously, at least it's my gauge to figure out the radius number. Before I wanna continue, I wanna just open this PDF real quick. It's a PDF written years ago. I think. Whoops. Oh, okay, still opens. By Master Zap Anderson. He's the shader writer for Mantle Ray's Fast Skin, actually. But even though it's not VRay, I really suggest you locate this PDF and read, because it's got excellent basic information what to look for in a scattering shader. For example, this is also one of the property for thin translucent object, where you have a very bright light, backlight, and you have something blocking, and the light still penetrates the thin object here and leaves this sort of like a shadowed thing that's blocking. That's one of the things that you perceive as translucent object. See, just one of the effects of SSS scattering. So there are a few properties that you have to look for. It's one of them. This is also one very important one, and I'm not sure if a lot of people realizes this, but if you notice, the difference between the left and the right is actually pretty slight, but there is a difference. The one on the left has, like the PDF said, has no SSS, and the right does. And the one on the left, the bump is very harsh, and the one on the right, because of the SSS shader, it allows light to penetrate a certain amount, which is you define in the scatter radius, and penetrates and makes the light scatter the underneath and bounce back out, so it softens the bump. This is also one of the very prominent effect. Let me open something really quick from the papers as well, mentioning this very phenomenon. One second. Not that one. Let me just perhaps this one. Not this one, not the one that I'm looking for. Not that one, not this one. Bear with me, you know, there's a lot of, oh, there you go. It's, for example, oh, also not this one. There's another one that's much clearer. Anyways, you get the idea. Okay, be patient with me, and we'll find it. Not the hair one. One quick second. Come on, not that one. Too bad. I know I had it yesterday, but anyways, never mind. We'll just keep going. So as I mentioned, as I was saying, read through this. This is also one of the properties. Bump will be softer when you use SSS shader. That's my point. But you don't want to go crazy like this, anyways. And you know, read through this. I'm not gonna go through it. And also, it doesn't apply to. I mean, the per setting doesn't apply to VRay, but a lot of the concepts do, though. But just want to point out that this is a very good PDF covering the basics. Moving on, face function. This one needs we need to open the manual. And to be honest, I did test for it. I just leave it at positive values. I don't use it on a negative value because the manual says its usage is for something other than skin. It's for marble, I think. The manual mentioned it somewhere, and I'm not gonna try to locate it. But try to keep positive value. You know, try. I don't find this matter that much, so I'll just leave it at default. As we mentioned, all these are turned off. Here we have a bunch of different types. Also in the manual it mentioned just leave it as simple type, and it should be fine. If you're trying to do, I guess, something else, then I haven't used it for something other than skin. I haven't tried, like in the manual example, this type of translucent water. I haven't tried it, but it says there they use the ray trace refractive type. I never used it, but anyways, right. Sorry, I had to cut the previous recording. Let's just continuing what we left off. So the single scatter subdivs, whatever in VRay or other render engines, I guess, that says subdivs or samples, normally deal with, you know, sample quality. So since I use in my final render file, I use a fully adaptive method, so this will override any subdiv numbers that we have. So we'll just leave this for default for simplicity's sake. But if you found out maybe your skin shader, your skin render too noisy and it's not because of the light or the anti-aliasing, this probably can help. Anyways, moving on, refraction depth. I guess if it's used if you activate this type, but anything with depth, be it reflection or refraction, usually almost like a bounce, or in terms of refraction depth is if for example you have a piece of glass. I'm talking outside the skin context here, but talking about the refraction depth context. If you have, for example, 5 pieces of glass and your depth limit is set to 5, and then a ray hit, then it will penetrate through all 5, and your number 6 is black because it reaches its limit and it stops rendering. This will speed up rendering. This is to speed up rendering. That's why it was invented. But if you, I just leave this at normal because I don't think, since we're using simple, it doesn't matter anyway. Okay, so these two, front and back, is your scattering effect. Just leave it on, and also by default the scatter GI is turned off. You wanna leave this on. This is I think very important from the very beginning. What is this scatter GI? It's actually kind of like turning GI on for your SSS material. It will make your SSS brighter, your skin brighter. So next we have the pre-pass blur, and again the pre-pass refers to this rate, and the blur by default I think is set to 1.2, right? This will help if the point of having this pre-pass blur is mentioned in the manual, actually, not in the example manual, but the other one. Okay, the point of having a pre-pass blur is if there's not enough sample in your skin shader, it will use the diffuse version of let me show real quick if I can just zoom this a little bit, but read this, you'll understand. See, if the material will use a simplified diffuse version of the multiple scattering, when basically if the lighting map, your scatter map, is too low or inadequate, right? Well, just read this, but the reason I put this on a lower number is so that when I have a big map, then I don't need to use a hack, a diffuse hack. That's what I'm trying to say. So I just lower it down. You will notice if you put this number too high, you will have like black splotches. So keep it high, keep it low, and keep the map 1:1 to your render size, and I think you are safe normally. Cutoff. Next, cutoff threshold. Anything in VRay that says cutoff, there's also another one, I believe, here. It's kind of like also the one that I drew with that 5 transparent. It's a limiting effect for to make renders quicker. So this is, I'm using a unit of centimeters, so anything that is smaller than 0.01 centimeters will not be calculated the sample. So we'll just leave this sensitive stuffs to default, I guess. If anyways, I mentioned moving on, I mentioned earlier this is the default, which is single frame, means it will calculate every time. So sort of like the same goes here, right? But if you hit it to autosave and then save it somewhere, and then once the file is saved, for example here, and then we can call it out, and it will not it will skip the scatter map calculation, which saves time, and it's good for for final rendering. But when you're doing tests, obviously you want to keep it on single frame. Right, moving on. The next part, I want to skip the bump for now, and we'll go to the color map, okay, which I write here is just a regular bitmap. As a matter of fact, I think this was just a regular 8-bit color, and that looks like this. Let me open up the Photoshop. Hold on one second, let me pause the video. Right, guys, sorry for the cut. I had again memory issue, so I had to close some of the both the 3ds Max because these images are pretty huge, and the installed RAM is pretty limited. But this is an 8K image, so this this file is the one that I use for the final texture. And I'll go through these real quick. So basically, the method that I used for the texture map is a combination of photo projection and obviously hand paint on top. Let me just first show you guys sort of like a very early stage. I lost the PSD texture file that was that has the very early stage of the projection. But anyways, I used this. I think you've seen this image obviously from the first video. I used this one, and I basically projected this on using ZBrush onto the ZBrush model, and then obviously the model has UV, and then when the UV is laid out, the texture is exported. I ended up with something like this one actually, which is the original, but then this is after, it's still very messy, and this is after a shadow and highlight operation in Photoshop. This one after this one. So I'm not sure if you guys use this often, but this tool is a tool to remove shadow or and highlights from a picture, a photograph. So if you notice, the thing with photo projection, it has specular everywhere, and it's not good. In my opinion, and I know this is I think true, that a good color map, this what I mean by texture here is the one for the color, is best as flat as possible, without especially highlight, specular highlight information. Some shadow information is okay for adding definition, just slightly, but all those these highlights are bad, and when you render it with VRay, the skin shader with bump and specular map on top, it will look very weird. It's almost messy, and I can tell if the color map has bad specular. So from here, let me just see. It's from I did the projection using ZBrush from ZAppLink. There's a faster new method using the spotlight in ZBrush, but I'm kind of old school this way, I guess. So anyways, let me just do a quick try using the shadow highlight tool.